When we multiply two fractions, we can show the multiplication using the same array we've used before, like this. Since we're dealing with fractions of numbers, we need whole units that are bigger than these that we've used before. We can zoom in a little, like this. Now we can see each whole unit in more detail. We start by showing the first fraction in the problem, 2/5 on this scale. So we divide each unit into 5 equal parts to show fifths. We show the second fraction on this scale. So we divide each unit into 4 equal parts to show fourths. Next, to show the first fraction, we count 2/5 here. And show the second fraction by counting 3/4 here. The product of these fractions is shown by this array. We're multiplying fractions, so the first thing we need to know is how many parts are in each whole unit in the answer. A whole unit is shown here. We have 5 parts per unit, times 4 parts per unit. When we multiply these two numbers, we see that we have 20 parts in a whole unit. This means the denominator of the answer is 20. Next, we need to know how many of these parts we have in the array we created by multiplying the fractions. 2 parts are counted on this side, and 3 parts are counted on this side. 2 times 3 is 6, so when we connect the lines, we see that the array has 6 of these parts in all. This means the numerator of the answer is 6. Again, there are 20 parts in each whole unit. So the denominator is 20. We have 6 parts in the array. So the numerator is 6. So the product of the two fractions is 6/20. Now notice that the numerator, 6, is equal to the product of the two numerators in the fractions we multiplied. 2 times 3 equals 6. Also notice that the denominator, 20, is equal to the product of the two denominators in the fractions we multiplied. 5 times 4 equals 20. Here's another example. We can show the problem in an array. We will show 2/3 on this side, so we divide the whole units into thirds and count up 2/3. We will show the second fraction, 5/2, on this side, so we divide the whole units into halves and count up 5/2. The array for our problem looks like this. So now we have whole units that have 3 parts times 2 parts. So we have 6 parts in each whole unit. This means the denominator in the answer is 6. To find the numerator of the answer, we count 2 parts times 5 parts. So there are a total of 10 parts counted in the array. This means the numerator is 10. Again, each unit is divided into 6 parts. So the denominator is 6. We count 10 of these parts. So the numerator is 10. Again, notice that the numerator in the answer is the product of the numerators in the fractions we multiplied. The denominator is the product of the denominators in the fractions we multiplied. We could solve every multiplication problem with fractions using diagrams like this, but that would take a long time. In every case, the answer would be the same as we get if we just multiply the numerators and denominators as we did in these examples. We saw that when we multiply the denominators, we find how many parts are in each whole unit, which tells us the size of the parts in the array that represents the answer. When we multiply the numerators, we find how many parts we have in the array. Now that we know what multiplying fractions means, we can use these facts to solve all multiplication problems with fractions. Here we have 4/5 times 1/2. To multiply these two fractions, first we multiply the numerators. 4 times 1 equals 4. Next we multiply the denominators. 5 times 2 equals 10. So the answer is 4/10. The 4 in the answer tells us how many parts would be in an array that represents this answer. The 10 in the answer tells us the size of the parts by telling us how many parts are in one whole unit. Last example. 3/2 times 7/8. To multiply the fractions, first multiply the numerators. 3 times 7 is equal to 21. Next, multiply the denominators. 2 times 8 is equal to 16. So the answer is 21/16. Now, do the rest on your own.